I was thinking about my white cane that I use and how it's so helpful, but it'd be so much more helpful for, I think, a myriad of other tasks. Like I wish I almost had like a backpack with all sorts of like twist-on attachments I could screw on the other end, you know? I could have like someone say like, hey, Father Tim, I need some help shoveling out my driveway. No problem. Pull out my little shovel attachment and start shoveling, you know? Or hey, Father Tim, can you help me rake the leaves in my yard? No problem. I got a rake attachment in here, you know? Or, you know, hey, Father, or maybe if Barb, who's helping serve today, needs help on the curling team, I could put a little curling broom on the end, and sweep, sweep, you know? But whatever it could be, you know, there's all sorts of things I could do with this thing, even like a pool cue, you know? 8-ball in the corner pocket. Right there, yeah? So as you can see, like this could be an all-purpose cane. You know, this could be like a Swiss Army cane almost, you know? You can do all kinds of things, you know? Now for us, you know, I'm sure you've seen advertisements or, you know, tried to buy things of similar idea, right? Where this idea of, you know, it's great when one item can do a lot of things, you know. And it's something for us that there's that, we look for that quick fix or that sort of one-stop shop scenario, right? It's so helpful to us to, you know, have one item that can deal with a myriad of problems, you know, or situations. I love that stuff, you know. You know, now, but often people say to you, you know, but these can be gimmicks, right? Or it can be like, they'll say, you know, if it's too good to be true, it is. You know, it's not, so it can't, well, you're right, it's not true. It's, you know, it's these ideas that we feel, you know, that there really is not always that magic bullet in things in life, you know, but we want it to make our lives easier, right? And because we look at our lives, we just want more peace, more like things to go more smoothly. And so any item that can help in that cause, we're attracted to that. You know, we're looking for peace, and in this week, we're really going to focus on the theme of peace. Last week, Father Eve was focusing on hope as we lit the first Advent candle, you know, and we're looking at the, you know, the idea of the hope that God gives us is a hope that is sure. You know, we can trust in God's promises to us. And this week, we want to look at His peace, how He really comes to us as Prince of Peace, how St. John the Baptist is calling out to us to prepare the way of the Lord, make straight His paths. And the prophet Baruch, who we heard about in our first reading, says, take off that garment of sorrow and affliction, and put on the garment, you know, of praise, right? And take on the name righteous peace. Right? This is what we want, right? We have something to do this Advent to get that inner peace that we're looking for. Jesus comes to us as that peace. But He is not too good to be true. He is true, and He is the one who can solve all of our other problems. He kind of is that one answer, that fix-all kind of God that we have. He really is the one we can turn to, who will give us that deeper peace. As it's been said in the past, you know, that by other people, that this idea of peace is not merely just the absence of war and conflict. Peace is with right relationship with God. That's where we get that inner peace, what we really yearn for. And that's what Jesus wants to offer you and I. So when we look at the gospel today, there is this way that it's described, there's like 4 main problems where Jesus is that one fix-all solution. So what are these 4 issues that we're dealing with? Well, we got these valleys that need to be filled in. We've got these mountains that need to be torn down. We've got these crooked ways that need to be made straight. We've got these rough paths that need to be made smooth. Right? So in our life, we have these valleys and mountains and winding crooked ways and rough paths. So what do? We can turn to Jesus. You see, these issues in our lives cause us a lack of peace. And only when Jesus fixes these things and helps us out, then, in right relationship with Him, we find that deeper peace that we're yearning for. Let's look at these different areas. So with the idea of the valleys, right, we can find ourselves at times, you know, dealing with maybe deeper discouragements or depression or shame. Maybe we're grieving. There's a lot of sorrow in our hearts. Maybe there's just ways that we're just a lot of negativity, negative, you know, sort of stinking thinking, as it's called, and we get stuck in a spiral of, you know, these negative thoughts. We're stuck, right? We're down. And there's that expression that goes that if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging, right? That's what I do. So what is it about us sometimes that we're in that hole? We tend to wallow in it. We linger there for some reason. We don't, but Jesus wants to come and fill in that valley. He wants to get us out of that pit, right? He wants to help us. And so we need to let him in. Let him in during this season of Advent to be our Prince of Peace, to come and to fill in those valleys with truth. See, maybe some of our things are like our sorrow and our discouragement or our negativity about ourselves or our shame. Jesus wants to speak words of truth like, I want to forgive you. I love you. I have a plan for you. Your life is worth living. You're here for a reason. My Holy Spirit is within you. You're a child of God. All these truths, right? This is like that soil filling in those valleys, right? Giving us that deeper peace. So this is something for us this season of Advent to look at areas of our life of saying, where am I wallowing and I'm stuck or I'm still digging the hole even deeper? How can I just take a moment just to stop for a second? Say, yeah, I don't need to keep staying in this way. God wants to come and minister to me. He wants to comfort me as I mourn with the hope of resurrection, right? He wants to bless me in my sadness with his joy. He wants to give me the truth where I'm feeling negative and down about myself, or on and on. You get the picture. But this is a good way for us to follow the call of St. John the Baptist, right? To prepare the way for the Lord, to look at these areas of valleys in our lives and let the Lord in. And we also have mountains in our lives, and these are things that for this reflection, I'm going to see it as the ways that we kind of puff ourselves up too big or make too much drama out of things in our life, like make mountains out of molehills, so to speak, right? Where our egos get in the way. And Deacon Art was telling me that in I think, different circles, that ego is often called, easing God out, right? Or edging God out, right? And that's what we can do when we're in the way with our egos. God gets edged out, and so he's not there. So we don't have that peace. It's hard to keep up appearances. It takes energy to deal with the things in life if we're making things too big for ourselves, where we're involved in so much that we can sometimes make life not human size, where we're trying to make something of ourselves, we're trying to prove ourselves, we're trying to get the most out of life, and we're making these big mountains. Our schedules are filled up and we're busy, and the Lord wants He wants to tear that mountain down. So you're not that important as you think you are. There's more important things in life, right? I've created you to live your life with my plan. You don't have to do everything. Do your part, right? And so Advent's a good time for us to allow the Lord, even though it can be scary, to say, Lord, whatever way I've made more of a mountain out of my life than I need, bring me back down to earth. Bring me back down to like a realistic level here. Help me to live a life that's human size. Help me just sort of stop and breathe for a little bit here and find that inner peace. I don't have to keep up with the Joneses, as the expression goes, right? I just need to be me, right? It's not about my ego or I just want to be faithful. I just want to do my part. And so we can examine our consciences this Advent and look at ways that maybe we're just too busy or that fear of missing out on things, or we're just making too much of ourselves, or and we're just not really making room for God. That we're so focused on how people see us, we're so fixated on our reputation or our image that we're not at peace in our hearts with God, that inner peace. So Jesus wants us to invite him in to tear down those mountains and to bring us back down to earth. But the Lord also wants to help us, to give us peace in the area of these crooked ways, right? These winding ways that we can be on. So in this third scenario, we can be, in life, sort of wanting to have the best of both worlds, right? We can have this idea where we're supposed to be living in the world, but not of the world. And yet sometimes we can be trying to do both, trying to be, in the world, and of the world at the same time, right? We try fitting everything in and we're winding around all directions, or we're trying to keep our options open. There's Jesus and religion, but there's these other things too, right? And so we're following all sorts of different paths just in case this Christian thing doesn't work out sort of idea, right? And we can be wandering, winding around. We're not following a real leader. We can be leaderless. We don't really have a hero. We're not really inspired. We're just kind of making it up, and so we end up winding around. It's like if you're lost in the woods and you don't have a proper guide, you'll just end up going in circles and circles. That's what we do sometimes in our life when we fail to really choose with our will that Jesus, I'm going to pick you to be my hero. I'm going to pick you to be my inspiration. I'm going to pick you to be my good shepherd, my guide. Right? I want to follow your way. I don't need to keep all these other options open, or, just in case this doesn't work out. I want to pick you, and I'm going to follow you straight as an arrow. Right? And in that we do that, what happens is we find deeper inner peace. Inner peace. If we choose Jesus, the energy of searching and wondering is over, and we can rather spend energy on loving and following God. Right? That's what Jesus wants for us. He wants to make our crooked paths straight. Pick him in. So this Advent, we want to look at ways that maybe are how committed are we to Christ? How much are we following him, or are we following several things or nothing and walking in circles? How do we allow him to make our paths straight and not be afraid to pick him as the one true Lord? Now, the final part is to look at this area of making the rough ways smooth. Right? And that's great. Especially for me, I love when rough ways are made smooth. I don't be tripping over stuff all the time, But we have things in our life where we have setbacks, disappointments, things that happen, like get curveballs thrown at us in life that we're not expecting, and we're sidewinded, and our paths can be made tough. Unexpected things, and we're like, man, life is hard, right? And we're stumbling and tripping over just all of our discouragement and our just these unforeseen problems, and Jesus wants to make it smooth for us. We can also be our own worst enemy and tripping over ourselves. We can make our paths rough by just bad choices that we're making, struggling with sin and our addictions or vices, with these ways that we're kind of just putting all these obstacles in our path that don't need to be there. And so Jesus wants to make that smooth with his mercy, with his power. And so in this season of Advent, it's great for us to allow ourselves to examine our consciences, to look at ways that where are these tripping hazards in our life, on our souls, to let the Lord in there and to make it us new again in the sacrament of confession. And in this Advent season, there's all kinds of times to go to confession. We have confessions on Friday mornings as usual before Mass, but also even after Mass on Fridays. And we have the usual Saturday afternoon Mass confessions from 3:30 to 4:30. And we have a special confession evening on Wednesday, December 18th. We have a few priests coming in to visit, and we'll be able to get to confession on Wednesday night. So lots of different options for you there. So if you really want to prepare the way for the Lord and make straight his paths, let's let him into our souls and to help make those rough ways smooth with his mercy, and then we're going to find deeper peace in our hearts. So if this Advent season, I think it's good for us to hear St. John the Baptist, to hear the prophet Baruch, to look at, am I wearing these garments of sorrow and affliction in my life? Am I weighed down? Or am I stuck in a valley or too high up on a mountain trying to keep things up? Am I winding all around lost in my ways? Am I tripping over myself on these rough paths? This Advent season, God is saying to us, it doesn't have to be this way. We can turn to God to help us out, right? We can take off that mantle of sorrow and affliction. We can put on that garment of praise and be called righteous peace. It's up to us, right? St. John the Baptist says to us, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight his paths. So it's something we have to do. We have to look at our lives and look at ways that we're stuck in the valleys or high in those mountains or wandering all around or just tripping over ourselves, and to look at that. But then the next part is what God's going to do. He shall fill in those valleys. He's going to tear down those mountains. He's going to make those crooked ways straight and make those rough paths smooth. That's what God's going to do for us if we let him. So we want to let him in because God has that all-purpose kind of thing too. If we're in a valley, we got the backhoe attachment. We can fill it in, or we got, we're on the mountain. He's got the jackhammer. He's going to take down that mountain, right? We can put on the surveyor's transit kind of line for like, yep, the straight paths there, you just go that way. Or we can have the broom attachment to help sweep it up, to get us ready for, the rough ways, making them smooth. Jesus is the one solution for us. He's our Prince of Peace. He's the one who wants to help us. So let's make sure that we take advantage of this time, this Advent, and let the Prince of Peace give us true peace and right relationship with Him.